Welcome to the Geniuses of Copywriting podcast, a peek into the minds and strategies of the world's greatest copywriters, marketers, and persuasion experts. And now, here's your host, Brian Casangina.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Geniuses of Copywriting podcast. I've got an extra special guest for us on the call today, somebody who I've been trying to get a hold of for the last little while. And then when we finally decided to have a call, the power went out for all day. It's a funny story, and I've got a bunch of battery backups, but they all ran flat because it was actually out all day. But so the gods conspired against us. But this is 2020 when we're recording this, so probably used to that. So I want to welcome to the call Dave Miz. Somebody who's I'm really interested to find out all the secrets of email copywriting and eCom copywriting. So, Dave, welcome to the call. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me, Brian. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. I think it's going to be fun. So,
I hope so.
For those who don't know who Dave is, we're going to fix that problem right away because.
Which is Dave probably like 99.999% of the people out there.
Kind of behind the scenes kind of guy, but hopefully I'm going to make you a little bit more famous today. So, Dave, you were the designer for all the big marketing gurus back in the day. You were the king of online dating. And we just had an interesting chat about that before we started. But the way that I've come across you is what sticks in my mind is how you are a purveyor of righteous memes. You're always posting the entertaining stuff, which is also instructive and it's a good lesson for copywriters. So, Dave, can you tell us a bit about how you got started and how you became the king of online memes?
Well, it's interesting. That's the first time. Usually people say I'm like the king of email and all this whatever nonsense and all that other stuff.
Well, I just
the king of memes. I love this. I love this, man. Yeah, man. I'm getting I feel like, like they're in wrestling, like the guy or Conor McGregor, the champ.
Yeah.
Like walking around with 2 belts or something like that.
Yeah.
I think if we had the video on right now, I would be doing the strut, the McGregor strut. So, I got started way back, probably like 2000, 2001. If you've ever seen the movie Wolf of Wall Street or Boiler Room, I used to do that in my early 20s, which was probably like the late 90s, mid to late 90s. And then, the internet boom happened and, I basically quit my job, quit a 6-figure job doing that as a career and decided to learn how to make websites because I thought like making websites was like the next big thing. And then I remember seeing this guy's websites. They were like these little sales mini websites. The guy's name was Mark Joyner, right? I'm sure you obviously know Mark. I know me and Mark have become good friends over the years. So it's like full circle, like, serendipity, full circle type of thing. He actually was a client of mine many years ago. So that was super cool. And I remember going on his websites and it was like a web, like you go from one site to another site to another site. He had like all these different little ebook products. And I was like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. Like there's gotta be a way to make money with this stuff like this guy's doing. And that was like the trigger, probably like every single person watching this or listening to this, right? Like, how do you make money on the internet, right? And then you start going down the rabbit hole. So back then, the rabbit hole consisted of online forums. There was no Facebook or MySpace or any of that stuff, social media, right? So I joined this forum. It was called the Warrior Forum, and and so I just started with that. I was designing websites, making like $200 a website because nobody was spending money on websites back then. Everybody was using Microsoft Front Page, right? And I remember very vividly, I was designing websites. I was learning about sales, like these sales pages. So I didn't know who my clients were or anything like that. They were just sending me these like super long sales pages to design. and format and everything like that. And so that was my first experience, let's say, with copywriting, was getting these like Microsoft Word documents. They're all, highlighted and this, that, the other. And I had to format them into HTML with all the bold letters and all the highlighting and the graphics and all that stuff. And so I was doing this over and over and over again. And I started to kind of get the hang of it. I kind of felt, even though I was doing this for different clients, everybody had their own little style, but I kind of got the gist of what people were doing. And then I had one client who had a seminar. This was like the end of 2004. And his name was Armand Morin, really big marketer at the time. And I go to this seminar. It's in Los Angeles. I bring like a box of cards. I have like no money to my name. Okay. I want you to keep this in mind, right? Like I'm making a fucking dime, right? Like I'm trying, but nothing's like, I'm making these websites for like $300. I'm barely making any money. Okay. Even though I have this guy Armand as a client, he was like my biggest client. But I bring these business cards, and then he literally at the end of the seminar asks everybody at this seminar, there's like 400 or 500 people at this event. And they were like, who needs a website? And everybody, this is 2004. Remember, there was no ClickFunnels. There was no WordPress. Like building a website was like, building a fucking house at that time. And everybody's like raising their hand, and the spotlight shines on the back of the room on me. And they're like, he goes, that's the guy I use. Talk to him. And like people, it was like a fucking tsunami of people were jumping over their chairs at this seminar. They like all my cards were gone, they were all gone like within minutes. And then that was
order
like
forms instead.
I know, right? If I only knew what the fuck I was doing. Luckily, I put on the back of the business card the website address, with my email address and my phone number and all that shit. So, I started getting business from that. And then that was really what I saw was the power of online marketing. I was like, wow, this is pretty big. Like, look at this guy. He's working from home. He's making a shitload of money. He's helping all these people. Look at this seminar. It was gigantic. It was massive. And so I got this idea to make an info product based on the only thing I was really good at the time, which was Match.com, like meeting girls on the internet, right? I was in my like mid 20s, late 20s at the time. And I was really, really good at it to the point where people were asking me for help, like friends, my friends were asking me for help and messaging me saying, hey, Dave, can you help me, get a date on Match.com? Can you help me with my profile? Can you help me with emails? And so all of a sudden I started getting messages from their friends saying, hey, I'm friends with Jeremy. He told me that you can help me with this like online dating thing. He said you were like the king of it. I was like, oh shit. And this kept happening over and over again, while at the same time I'm getting like 50, 60, 70 phone numbers a month. Every month after month after month. And it's starting to get crazy. And so it just got really nuts. I decided to make a product. At the time, I didn't even have a PC computer. I used a Mac. So this is like 2005. And I had to find a friend of mine who had a PC computer. He was out partying. I was at home at his apartment, like working on these videos, making this whole thing. I burned it on a DVD because I had no fucking clue what I was doing. I thought that was like the easiest way to do it. I sent it off to a fulfillment company, and I started. So basically, I had done an interview with David D'Angelo at that time. Okay, Eben Pagan. I had a friend that was working for him. He introduced us. I did an interview with him. They told me it was going to start like 2 or 3 months from then. And then 2 weeks later, I get an email, like 400 emails, 500 emails in my inbox, basically, one morning. And they all say the same thing. Like, we heard the interview. We went to the website. There was nothing there. And I'm like, okay, like what interview are you talking about? What website? And they're like, oh, the David D'Angelo interview. So I'm thinking they're going to send this interview out like in a few months, but they sent it out in a few weeks. So I make a squeeze page and I build a list, but I have nothing to sell them. So I kind of like skipped a few steps here. I'm kind of remembering all this on the fly.
That's right.
So I have nothing to sell them, but I'm building this list of people that have listened to my interview and they obviously bought his products. So I know that that's like a hot list, right? So I know I'm going to make this product, right? But I don't know how, when, how, so I need to stall people. And this is how the whole beginning of email starts for me, right? Like, obviously I was really good at email with getting dates. So that was like the beginning of it, using email to get attention, to get responses, to get dates from women. Yeah. But then I started taking those concepts and really figuring out how to apply it to actually sell stuff to people, right? Because I had this list of people that was growing every day. I had done this interview and I had this golden opportunity and I said, okay, I can't let it go to waste. So I need to stall like these people for as long as I can until I can figure out how to make this product. So I write this email, and it was just a tip, and I don't include any pitch. There was no offer, there's no pitch, there's no nothing. It's just value.
Yeah.
And then I keep doing this like a couple times. And then every time I do this, I keep getting emails. Do you have anything to buy? Like, where's the product? And the more I do these emails, the more I keep getting these emails back, you know, and I'm like, maybe I'm onto something. So now I start teasing them, like unintentionally. At the end, I'm putting, you know, the product is coming. I'm working on it. I promise, you know, like, it's coming in 2 weeks. It's coming. I promise. And so I finally make the product on my friend's computer. I burn it on CD. I send it to the fulfillment company, and then I do this launch. And I was too broke at the time to afford the Jeff Walker product launch formula.
Yeah.
So I literally just watched how he did it, and I just kind of like modeled some of the steps to the best of my ability, which was really poor at the time. I sucked at writing copy. The only copywriting training I had at the time was just basically, you know, working for clients that were marketers that were, you know, writing copy, you know, formatting it.
Yeah.
So I launch it. I have a list of 1,788 emails the day I launch. We launch it at $97. There was no upsells at the time. I didn't know anything about continuity. I just put everything I knew on a CD, and I charged $97. Sold 33,000 the first day. Did like 100 grand the first month. And I knew at that time my life was never going to be the same. I had like $2,000 to my name that day, and then by the end of the day, I had $33,000 extra in the account. I was like, "What the fuck? This is awesome!" And that was really the beginning of like the whole, you know, marketing thing for me. You know, and I took that from there. I had that product. That was April 2005. I took that product for 13 years. It had a really good run. Probably, I would say, one of the longest, probably in the entire industry. Did probably over 3.1 million in revenue over those 13 years. And all just through email. I sucked at, you know, I was okay at doing SEO because there was this like software we were using at the time, and it worked. And then when it stopped working,
software used to work.
Yeah, it was like this crazy Russian software. You know, my SEO guys will know what I'm talking about. So I sucked at paid advertising. I sucked at Google AdWords. I wasn't really good at writing copy. And so much so that I ended up hiring a copywriter, Maria Veloso, who I'd always wanted to work with ever since she was Mark Joyner's copywriter back in the day.
Oh, okay.
And I remember ever since, you know, she had got me to buy all these products from Mark Joyner way back, I'd always wanted to work with her. So I hired her to redo my sales letter, and immediately the sales doubled.
Wow.
And so I kept thinking, like, for the first few months, you know, well, I did pretty well with it. Like, how much more I would have done if I had at least a good sales letter.
Well, now you do have a good sales letter.
Yeah. So, you know, it switched it to VSL. You know, over the years, you know, things have changed. You know, now it's a VSL. I have like a little low end offer. I've splintered it off. So, you know, done different things with it over the years. But I was really good with writing emails. I did that every day, and I noticed the more I email my list, the more money I made. So I just kept doing that. Yeah,
and like you were saying before, you weren't pitching at first; you were just giving out values. So it's like, I was just reviewing a client's emails today, and the mistake they're making is it's all sell. There's no value in it for the end user. You know, that's because no one signs up to an email list just to be pitched. You know, there's nothing wrong with selling, but you've got to provide that value as well.
I think there's a time and a place for it. Yeah, but it's got to be people have to be in the right frame of mind. Yeah, and so like I always use this analogy of like TV shows. There's a TV show. It's called Bar Rescue. Have you ever seen it before? I don't know if you guys have it over there. Maybe it's just in the States. So it's this guy. His name is John Taffer. You can probably watch it on YouTube if you're outside the States. Yeah. And it's really cool for like sales and marketing purposes because the guy is basically like a marketing genius for bars and restaurants on all these different techniques and strategies. He knows like if the bar is designed X way that there's 20% more money coming in. And if the people say this thing at the end of the sentence, then they make 10% more money. Like all these different things.
Is he a bald guy?
He has a little bit of hair. He's pretty thick, pretty stocky, but the whole show starts off. Every show starts off the same. Every show is the same, essentially. And so it starts off. He sends one of his guys in there to spy on to go to in the bar in the beginning to see what's really wrong. Exactly. They've got hidden cameras already up there. He's watching from the truck, from the SUV. And then the guy comes back. Then he goes in and he berates them, blah, 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 blah. Then they do a test to see how bad everything is. He fixes everything. They test it again. It's the same whole process. Once you figure out how the sequence or the cadence is for that show or any show, like mentally you check out. And you can think about any TV show that you watch. As soon as you know what's going to happen next, like mentally you're just kind of like, meh. It doesn't have that same energy as it did when you had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And for copywriters, like copywriters always get this because, you know, it's so formulaic in terms of like stories and movies and stuff like that. And I think once you really learn the storylines, you know, and you start seeing them in movies, it kind of makes the movies a little different for you.
Yeah, that's true. But still educational. I like to see these story structures come out in old movies that I've seen. And it's really, you watch a movie from the 80s and you watch it when you're a kid, and then you realize how the story was set up, according to these formulas, and you see that with fresh eyes, whereas you just enjoyed it as a movie when you're a kid.
Right, and the key is really fresh eyes. So how can you replicate that process? And the way that I figured out through sending probably tens of thousands of emails over 13 years was, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're never going to get that sensation to people, because they're just going to eventually figure out what's happening. Oh, this guy, they send email Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's the same shit. Friday's a pitch, Monday's a motivational pep talk, and Wednesday's some bullshit article, right? That's some, PLR article, right? Like, you know what I mean? Once they figure that out, game over. Your open rates go down, your numbers go down. You can use every trick, technique, tactic, the best copywriting, and it's not going to matter. So the trick is really is not to do a trick, right? There's a difference between trying to trick yourself into somebody's inbox versus somebody wanting to open your email. And the way that I really learned to do that was to really focus on really human psychology really, really well. But in particular, there's different styles of emails that you want to use, and you really want to mix things up. And so in the dating stuff, what I always taught men was that you want to be mysterious to a woman that you haven't met before. Because think about it, online dating, the biggest problem is the guy will have their first date on the phone. They'll have this, they'll exchange phone numbers, and then they'll have a 4-hour phone call before they've ever met. And then probably the guy says something to put his foot in his mouth, unbeknownst to him, because we're guys and we probably tend to do that more than we know.
Yeah, for sure.
She's never going to speak to him again or call him or meet him again, and he just basically, why she doesn't want to meet me? Well, hello, there's no more mystery there. You're not mysterious anymore. There's no reason to meet you. You had your first date on the phone. So same kind of concept here. You really have to keep that level of mystery up, right? And keep people guessing as what's going to happen next. Are they going to send me a link to a podcast next? Are they going to send me a video next? Are they going to send me a PDF? Are they going to send me a link to a Facebook post, a live webinar? What's coming? I have no idea.
This is
it a long email? Is it a short email? Is it what is it? Is it a survey? Is it asking? What is it? What the fuck is he sending me next? When you get that level of thinking in someone's head, game over. Your numbers are sky high. Your engagement sky high. So that's what I really figured out by using these different levels or different types of emails and really mixing things up.
Yeah. It's like the radio shock jocks, there's a few of them around who people tune in for, people like Howard Stern, because you're listening to their show. I don't know if it's still on or not, but in the States, but you're listening to the show because you're wondering to yourself, and of course, Dan Kennedy has credit for introducing me to this, but you listen to a show like that because you're wondering, what's next? What's he going to do next? What's he going to do on this show? It's
what's the best movie when you say that comes to my mind? And it's such an awesome movie, The Talented Mr. Ripley.
I don't think I've seen that.
Matt Damon, Jude Law, I think Gwyneth Paltrow's in it even. There's a bunch of it's an all-star cast, but it's all set in Italy in like the 1920s or 30s or sometime around then. I don't even want to ruin it for you, but amazing movie. It has you glued to your seat.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because it's like a lot of action movies are very formulaic, and exactly what's going to happen. The good guy's going to win and the bad guy's going to lose, and
you have no idea what's going to happen in this movie. It's so amazing. I don't even want to ruin it for anybody. If you haven't watched it, watch it. Message me on social media and let me know. But it's super, super, super awesome.
Yeah. So what are some of the techniques that you use when you're writing emails, in regards to keeping it fresh and different ways to keep the readers engaged? What are some of the tricks that you use for your clients?
Well, I had to figure something out because what had happened was in the beginning, right, I was writing all these emails by accident with no pitch.
Yeah.
And I was like whipping up a frenzy, right? So, and people were just buying shit like crazy. Then I started adding in all these like automated emails, sequences. A few years later, what had happened was the email technology got better, by like 2010, 2011, all the technology, you could do all these like fancy automations and stuff like that we just couldn't do back when I started, right? Like when I started, it was like day 1, send this email, day 3, send this email. Now I can send an email if they didn't open something, send this. If they opened something and didn't buy, send this. And so I went a little crazy with that, and I started setting up all these, really crazy automations and stuff, and they, took things to the next level. And then what had happened was, the dating space was, and you know this because Rob and everything, he could tell you all the stories too. Like it was probably the hottest niche online. With the TV shows coming out, my friend Neil Strauss had the book, The Game. Like I was going to seminars and like surrounded by people, by marketers, like it was crazy. People were asking me all kinds of questions and stuff about that stuff. It was nuts. And what had happened was I'm really picturing this. I'm trying to remember all these things that were happening. What had happened was people started getting into the space. They saw that there was an opportunity, and they started like taking your sales pages and copying it, taking your products and copying it. It was happening to me over and over and over again. And like some people were just stealing parts of my sales letter, the whole sales letter, the graphics, the product. It was nuts, man. So I had to figure out how to I was always like in the back of my mind, I was always worried that I was going to stop. Like it was just going to come to a halt. And so I had to figure out how to
everything.
Yeah, man. And it happened. It happened like crazy. It was rampant. So I had to figure out how to really keep the longevity going. And that's really how I figured out those different types of emails, right? To really keep the longevity going, to keep people on their toes. And really, that's what allowed me over, for 13 years to continue it. And just to continue mailing it, to continue having it make, really, really good money. I think that's really the key is because most people they'll find one person, that's good with email, and they'll emulate that style.
Yeah.
And for me, the analogy is it's like martial arts and Bruce Lee. I'm a guy, and I always use those kind of examples. So Bruce Lee would always say all those styles have weaknesses, right? because you're very limited. And what he figured out was he could take the best techniques from each one of those different styles and create his own style, and he could beat every single one of them.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's really the idea that I took, was to take what works from all different types of things. And I tested everything. Like if somebody said this thing worked, I tried it, you know, and most of the stuff didn't work. A few things did. Some of the stuff I got from the craziest sources, but it worked. And, you know, that's what I kind of developed into this little system, I guess, or methodology. And, yeah, that's what it really, you know, I built a golf offer afterwards. I tested it out. I really wanted to test it to see, like, proof of concept, I guess, right? Like, could I make it work in something I knew nothing about? And I don't know anything about golf. If you've ever watched me play golf, if you're watching this, any of my friends, like you guys know, I'm absolutely horrible. Yeah, if I can hit the ball, it'll be lucky. So I know nothing about golf. I found some swipe files. I did some research, found out and put it together. And I had like number 2 golf offer on ClickBank. So yeah, I was doing really, really well. And yeah, so that was like proof of concept, right? Like it works.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, I have that dating offer with Rob, and you know, I've been married for years and been in long-term relationships since the late 90s, and so I haven't been in the dating game in any form for a very long time. I don't know nothing about it. And last time I was dating, it was well before Tinder and stuff like that, so I've never had an account. But you know, but I've still got the product, and you apply the principles and the stuff that you're talking about here, which is really valuable, you know.
yeah, and honestly, man, I'll be straight up. I've never studied copywriting, right? I know people, like, I get hit up on Facebook all the time, and like by a lot of copywriters, and they always think I'm a copywriter. And I tell them, like, dude, I'm not a fucking copywriter. I've not studied anything. Like, I think the most I've studied copywriting was either working with Frank Kern and designing the mass control stuff for him and the sales pages for him for that, and really like seeing how he put all that together. Or I used to do, for a brief period, I worked for John Carlton, and I designed a bunch of his sales pages. And I always thought that was really interesting because I always called him the king of highlighter. You know, he would highlight like 25,000 things on the page, and it really like forced me to like focus on those things. So, you know, that was really interesting. But that's really how I learned writing copy. I would read the Gary Halbert letter at night before I would go to bed.
Good bedtime reading.
Read that. Yeah, I'd always read that. I always thought he was really cool with the personality, how he would write. But I never could write that stuff. You know, I was good at writing emails. But that was really it. I still don't think I'm great. I think I'm okay. You know, so.
Well, you seem to be okay to me. I mean, judging by the kind of memes that you share. I mean, what seems to me like is you've really absorbed a lot of stuff. And I think a lot of it happens subconsciously. You know, you're working on a sales page, it's got a bunch of copy on it. You know, I think that we take in more of that than we realize. And it's kind of been around the scene for long enough. And I think you're a similar age to me. So you're not old by any stretch of the imagination, but you've been around the scene long enough and seen enough copy, it kind of transmutes into your own hands and through the keyboard.
I think you really have to like learn what your strengths are. And everybody's different, you know, like, I think I have a very good talent or ability to recognize patterns.
Yeah. And
not just recognize patterns, but really like deconstruct them, like reverse engineer them.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that's maybe a talent or a skill that I've developed over the years, that, you know, and I feel like that really has helped me in terms of being able to write copy or learn how to write copy.
And I think that a lot of new copywriters have a problem with that. And it probably was a factor in, you know, the reason why it took me a long time to really get started getting any results is that that stubbornness, that not being willing to take that stuff into account and really be open to learning.
Well, it's funny that you say that because, now I have an agency. We do email marketing for e-commerce brands, and I work with, from time to time we hire copywriters. And I hired some copywriters for a cold email project, to like outreach, right, for the agency to get new business. And I hired, because, I'm the internet marketing mindset, I said, okay, I'm going to split test different copywriters.
Yeah.
So I hired like 3 different copywriters for the project. And copywriter number 1 sent me back something completely opposite of what I asked for, even though I spent like real detailed time explaining it to him. Copywriter number 2 sent me what he wanted to send me instead of what I was looking for. So he had like his own ideas. And then copywriter number 3 was trying way too hard to be funny and to get attention. And you can really tell in the copywriting, really came across. And I thought that was really interesting. Like, out of the 3 of them, I was expecting at least one of them to do the project as like I asked. And I know, like, I've worked with enough copywriters to know how to explain to, like, I made a video explaining it to them. I explained to them the project, I showed them examples, so really eye-opening. So I think for copywriters, really listening to what your client's asking for.
Yeah.
And delivering what they're asking for, not what you think they want or what you think they need. Yeah,
because active listening is such an underrated skill, and I've been guilty myself, of course, in the past of ignoring perfectly reasonable client requests. But it's like, when you were talking there, it's just coming to mind all the gurus who tell you as a copywriter, you should be calling the shots, and you're telling the client what they should be sending out,
but I think you have to earn that. You have to earn that level of respect with a client.
But new copywriters want to do that from the start.
No way in hell. Yeah, you got to earn that. You got to earn your chops, and I don't mean that like I'm like that with all of our clients. Like, we have clients where they have to approve every single email, to the font, to the color, to the everything. And that's okay, right? It takes time to earn that level of trust for them. But then once everything's good to go, then it's smooth sailing. Usually they don't even want to see it afterwards, right? Because you've earned that level of trust with them, and you've been consistently delivering. Which is another thing, consistently delivering.
Yeah, that's the place where I try and get to, where I think I've got there now with the people who I work for. I used to send them every email, and they used to get feedback, but now it's just like I own the process, and they don't need to look over my shoulder at all. So that's the end game.
Yeah, it takes time. The client's not just going to do that for you right off the bat, just to some random person. And it's kind of going back to the dating analogy. If somebody did that initially, I would be very leery. That might not be some client that you're going to have for a long time, because it's like, the dating analogy, like a girl or a guy that's, in love with you after 30 minutes. Usually those relationships are in and out in 2 weeks. So easy come, easy go. That's what I think on that. So.
So, do you have like one piece of advice for not really for newbie copywriters, but people who've been around trying to get to the next level, get to a serious level of copywriting, where they can earn that autonomy, where they can earn the position where they can own that process of owning the email marketing system. What's the most important thing that they can focus on to get there?
You mean in terms of just being able to become a better writer?
Yeah, a writer that your client can depend on and trust.
So this is going to sound so crazy coming from me because I've always resisted, this type of stuff. But, for years I would go to these seminars and they would tell you to take these personality profiling tests. Right. Have you've seen them? I took this one. It's called the Colby test. I swear, I've been to seminars for probably 10 years. And every time they've said to do that, even if I've been in a coaching program or something, that week, I just said, fuck off, basically fucked off. Right. There's no way I'm filling this shit out. Right. I don't have the patience for it. But eventually I just got to the point where I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I did it. And what I noticed was it made so much perfect sense. I scored super high on creativity, ideas, that type of stuff. And I scored super low on implementation, and it made perfect sense. And I went to school for advertising here in Miami. And one of the things they taught us and they told us was creative people procrastinate worse than any other types of people. And it made perfect sense to me because I procrastinate so much, and I scored very low on implementation. So if you run a service business, that's probably not a good combination. Right? It's a good combination to basically have clients get fucking pissed at you, never do business with you again, for word to get around that you're flaky. If that's the kind of business you want to run, then great. But I knew that long term it wasn't gonna be a working thing. So I brought in a partner who was amazing at implementation, amazing, who loves it, who's a fucking master at it, and we just crush it. So the way the analogy I use to people is I'm the fisherman and he's the chef.
Yeah, great analogy.
Right? I bring him the fish, he cooks it, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so everybody's got to find that thing. If you're amazing at implementation, but you suck at sales, then find somebody that you can partner with. Right? I was good at email, and the way that the whole email thing happened, I'm a big believer of following your intuition, following the universe, God, whatever you believe. And so it was just kind of leading me in that direction. Right. And so, I didn't choose, I didn't set out and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to start a, email marketing agency for e-commerce brands. It literally just fell into my lap and happened. And so I was just smart enough to recognize that there was an opportunity there. And I went full blast with it. And so, everybody listening is going to have some type of thing like that happen to them. I think, I think it just always happens in our lives. You just have to be smart enough to recognize what that opportunity is. For you, it might be sales pages. For somebody else, it might be, movie scripts. Who knows what kind of writing it is, right? You could be writing for a coach, for a consultant. There's so many different things right now that you can do. But you just have to be smart enough to recognize it. I was coming off, I had spent probably close to 6 figures developing a software, an email tracking software that was my dream software to use. And unfortunately, it wasn't a good fit for the market, right? Even though I thought it was the greatest fucking idea ever, and it's super cool, but it was too advanced for the market. Right. And, I was having a hard time selling it. People were buying it on webinar a little bit, but they weren't using it. So I wasn't getting any feedback. It was sucking money out of me for more development costs, for this, for that. And then I had this other opportunity that was hitting me in the face. So I recognized what was there. Right. And I made I guess the word today is pivot, I guess, is such a common word I hate fucking people saying that, but I literally just jumped ship. Right. Even though I sunk almost 6,000, 6 figures into it. I was okay, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah. 2020's ruined a lot of words for us, but it's a very good point that you make. So, yeah. So, what you've shared with us today is really valuable for copywriters at any level. I never invite somebody on here who I don't think I can learn from, and I haven't been disappointed here as well. So,
but I went on some crazy tangents and shit, so I apologize.
I enjoy those tangents, so we'll have to do this again sometime. Going on a few more tangents. I mean, we haven't even touched on one of my favorite subjects, is the memes that you post on social media. So I want to get people to connect with you there as well, because they should enjoy those memes too. You mentioned you had a website as well.
Yeah, so we have a website. It's really, really bad right now.
Yeah.
It might be better when you hear this in the future, but for now,
I'm creative enough to procrastinate maybe for a couple of years before I release this. You have time.
Yeah,
to fix
so it's pretty bad right now. It's called the emailexperience.com, and it's literally a headline, a video of proof of results from one of my clients. Like showing crazy results, and then an application.
I think that's a perfect website.
And I think, you don't need all this crazy shit to sell stuff anymore. Social media has really changed the game, I think. And you don't need all this crazy stuff. Like, people either want what you have or they don't.
Yeah. So what was it again?
The emailexperience.com.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So, if you're listening here on iTunes, then I'll put a link to that website, the emailexperience.com, on Dave's episode on geniusesofcopywriting.com. So you have a link there. But for me, that's the description of a perfect website. Headline, proof, and then call to action. You can't ask more than that.
Amen.
Yeah. All right. So thanks for that, man. I really appreciate what you shared here. It's been very insightful and very helpful to copywriters of all levels, like I said. So the emailexperience.com is your website. What about social media? Because I want to share these memes with other people there.
I would go to facebook.com/Dave Miz, DAVEMIZ. And so I post them on there all the time. And yeah, there's a bunch of them there. I probably have like a real. You know what? You really want to hear the story on how this started? Like real quick.
Go ahead.
I started making these pictures for my friends. Like I wouldn't post them publicly. I would take like your picture, your face, and I would Photoshop it into another picture, like a random funny picture. And my friends were going like nuts over this. Right. And so I said, you know what? Like, if they're going nuts over this, let me try doing a meme and posting something on Facebook. And it worked. And then here we are. So we'll save that for another time. Yeah. We'll save that.
Worked. Yeah. All right. Cool, man. I appreciate that. So the emailexperience.com, I just had a look at the website, and it's, simple and effective, but, go on social media as well, facebook.com/Dave Miz. I'll put both of those links on the episode on geniusesofcopywriting.com. And you should definitely go and check those out. I appreciate what you've shared with us. Thanks again for coming along and sharing that stuff with us. So
thank you for having me.
Definitely have to do this again. All right. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to Geniuses of Copywriting with Brian Casangina. To get the full transcript and all the resources mentioned on today's show, go to www.geniusesofcopywriting.com now.